Man sees duck quacking on top of a drain. Then this happens. Gary Bartaszewski was taking a walk through the park when he heard a weird noise. Curiosity got the best of Gary, and he went to check out what was making that noise, and to his surprise, it was a panicked mother duck. The duck was sitting on a metal drain, and Gary couldn't understand why she was quacking nonstop. However, he quickly realized that something's not right and decided to keep investigating. Ducks love to spend their time around the park because people feed them breadcrumbs. Not just that, but parks are also a safe place for ducks since no one wants to harm them there. On the downside of things, little ducklings are in danger whenever their mother takes them away from the park because they're small and fall into tight spaces where they can't get away from. Gary heard the mother duck quacking, and he decided to see what was wrong with it. The duck was defensive at first and she wouldn't move off the drain, but Gary quickly convinced her to move. You won't believe what he saw inside the drain. Gary was shocked to see that a bunch of ducklings got stuck inside the drain. Seeing this, the man knew he had to do something and save the little animals before something terrible happened to them. Gary picked up a metal rod and tried to lift up the metal that was on top of the drain. Unfortunately, the metal proved to be too heavy and the man couldn't pick it up. This is when Gary realized that he needs to think of a different method of saving the ducklings. Gary needed to think fast because the little ducklings were sitting in a water pipe that could overflow and take them away in an instant. What do you think the mother duck did all this time? Even though Gary was doing his best to save the little ducklings, the mother duck kept quacking nonstop. The duck was anxious to get her babies back, and Gary needed to rush. Fortunately, Gary managed to find 2 small nets and someone to help him pick up the ducklings from the drain and give them to their mama. The little ducklings are fragile, and Gary needs to be careful when picking them up. Keep watching because you'll be amazed by how the mother duck reacts to seeing her first baby being taken out of the drain. As Gary was trying to pick up her babies, the mama duck stopped quacking. Maybe she realized that her quacking was annoying Gary and she wanted to keep him calm. Isn't this amazing? The first duckling was out, and the first thing that it did was run back to its mama. Seeing this, Gary knew that he couldn't stop and he needed to keep picking up the other stuck ducklings. One of the ducklings was saved, but Gary's mission was far from over. Gary and his helpers still had lots of ducks to save, and luckily they decided to save them all. Gary kept on pulling out more and more ducklings, and all of them ran straight to their mama. Everyone who was there had a smile on their faces after seeing the little ducklings safe. We think it's safe to admit that the little ducklings got very lucky that Gary was walking around the park just when they fell into the drain. Not everyone would be curious enough to find out why a duck doesn't stop from quacking, and this makes Gary special. Gary's mission to save all the ducklings was nearly over, but there was still one more. Unlike the first couple of ducklings, this one was pretty far away and Gary couldn't reach it with his net. Gary didn't want to leave any duckling behind, and he put his hand up to his elbow in the drain and managed to pick up the last one. The next picture is going to bring on a smile to your face. All the ducklings were finally safe, and Gary knew that his mission was over. The mama duck got all her babies and she left for the park where there weren't any drains. After spending a couple minutes in the water drain, the ducklings were safe and sound. However, we can be sure that the mama duck is not going to take them for a walk next to any drain from now on. The best thing that ducks can do in order to avoid accidents like falling in the drain is to stay on the water. However, the city council could also use some better metal tops for water drains so ducklings don't get stuck inside them anymore. Gary's a lifesaver, and there's no doubt about it. Nonetheless, what do you think of this story?